Welcome back to part 2 of episode 6 of the Irish Mags Show, brought to you by the Irish Mags NUFC supporters group. My name is Paul, and I will be your host for today. And joining me, as always, it's the Kieran Dyer to your Lee Boyer. It's Mr. Alan Williamson and Mr. Chris O'Martin. Alan, how are you doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. And Chris, are you keeping well?
I'm keeping fantastically well, everybody. Congratulations. Let's get ready to go for this Mackem slang episode.
Love that. And for those of you who aren't watching on YouTube and listening to the audio version of this, Krisha was raising up a little glass of Guinness. He's in good form.
Very
disappointing because I was trying to bait you into an argument, lads, by calling you the Kieran Dyer to your Lee Boyer. They're not biting because we're too happy this week after this week's events. And incidentally, if you've missed part 1 somehow, we enjoyed a spectacular interview with former Newcastle United legend Warren Barton. So we highly recommend you give that a bit of your attention on Spotify or Apple or YouTube or wherever you are listening currently. And obviously the reason we have big smiling faces in addition to that is we had a lovely victory and a smug victory over our arch rivals, Sunderland, in the Tyne-Wear derby at the weekend. So we thought that, because we had Warren on the show, we wanted to give all of him our attention in part 1. And then we wanted to just take part 2 for ourselves to really rub it in, talk a bit more analysis on that Tyne-Wear derby, bit of a discussion on some recent transfer speculation with a few new names popping up this week. We will also have as we've said before, the infamous Chris Show's Bad Take of the Week, which we couldn't go a week without doing. And then, of course, we're going to turn our attention to Manchester City at the weekend. Right. I think we should start with an Irish Mags update because from what I could see across the Irish Mags community, lads, we had a hell of a weekend in multiple locations, Alan, I believe. Shenanigans all over the country. And from everything I've seen, quite successful in-person Irish Magstermind quiz.
Yes, we did indeed. So we had 2 meetups this weekend. The first one was in Cork. Obviously, the lads from Cork had a very successful meetup. I think there was 10 of them down there. Really enjoyed the match, obviously. Had a great old time. But up in the Bleaker, we had a small turnout of about 70 to 75 people. We had about 50 upstairs. Yeah, we were falling out windows. There was that many of us. It was absolutely brilliant. Lads, we had Newcastle fans from Brighton. We had Newcastle fans from Newcastle. We had Cy and his wonderful Mrs. Ruth from the London Mags with us. We had lads from Portlaoise, we had lads from Cork, we had lads from Belfast. It was literally the first official Irish Mags meetup where everyone met up. It was great. And
wasn't there even, I believe there was even some Italians there, no?
The AC Milan fans did show up. They were happy, but they less said about them the better because they were rubbing it in that they're still in Europe and I wasn't too happy with that. But come here, we had to take that on the chin. 2 lovely lads, to be fair. They backed us to the hilt, and they were 2 lovely lads, to be fair. So yeah, but also, as you said, we had our first official in-person Magstermind quiz, which I hosted. Wasn't allowed to win it this
brilliantly
time,
well.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, my godson and cousin won it. Which was everyone said fix, and I was going, it'd be a fix if he didn't win it because I was going out of my way to try not let him win. Unfortunately, he spends too much time just reading about Newcastle and knew everything.
All in the family, Paul. All in the family, Paul.
Yeah, Alan, I need to check. Does he have access to your laptop, your phone, your Google Drive?
Nothing. He has nothing. And when I was handed the sheets, I went through his answer list and I took 2 points off him, and he still won by 3 points. So I was like, he's actually walked away with this. So to be fair to Sean and Dara, they won.
Alan, any exclusive, Alan, who came second? Just for everyone listening,
who came second? That actually would have been Brian Carr and who was on his? Graham on his team. Graham,
yeah.
It clearly wasn't Chris Show anyway. Obviously,
no.
I mean, no one's surprised.
Chris Show just wrote "Man Red" for every single answer and got 1 out of 30. So I don't know what was going on.
I just had a stamp. I had a stamp with me, Paul. Just with "Man Red."
Eventually you get one right, I suppose.
But we had an absolutely fantastic meetup. It was
brilliant.
It was our best attended meetup. It was great crack. Oh, and also we had a raffle. Raffle was won by Brian. It was then donated to the Bleaker. The prize was a little man. You might see it on the screen if you're watching on YouTube now. Little Newcastle jersey, which was wonderfully donated to us by Brian, one of the Port Leash mags, who hand painted it himself. Now, I do have to give him a plug. He works. I'm just going to show this to the screen. Here, it's Irish Timeless Treasures at Solace. If you want anything handmade, handcrafted, please go and have a look at him, because
fantastic.
The effort that went into that figurine was absolutely amazing. And the fact that he donated it to us to give a little raffle, we didn't know it was happening. He just kind of rocked up and handed it to me and said, do a raffle, do whatever you want with it. Absolutely fantastic. So 10 out of 10. And Brian, thank you very, very much. But what a meetup. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, a shout out to Johnny as well for the excellent food that was put on afterwards, because we were literally swimming. Everybody was swimming in booze. So it was good to get some really top quality nosh knocked into it as well. It was really appreciated across the board by everybody. And I just couldn't believe that by the time kickoff came, there was really not that much space to sit. It was like a terrace upstairs. It was like we were in the stand. And then downstairs as well, it was a little bit more kind of reserved, let's say. But the whole day, honestly, 6 to 8 hours. I believe some people, maybe we mention them, Alan, or not, but some people stayed out till about maybe 4 a.m., which is insane. Which is insane. From 11 a.m. that day to 4 a.m. Sunday. I didn't, of course. I had to leave, of course, because, but it was really, really enjoyable. Everybody got on really well. The quiz went down really well. And just, even if something drastically bad would have happened, I still think we would have had the crack almighty all day. It was brilliant, really brilliant. So anybody listening, please do come down and join us. Come up from wherever you are. And we'll convince Paul to come and join us the next time so we can get an embarrassing
eventually
video of him.
Yeah, do you know when you get this thing that the kids now call FOMO, which is a fear of missing out? Well, I was absolutely riddled with it for the entire day. I had to attend a party that night at home in Galway. It was the 40th of very close friends, so I couldn't attend, and I was raging because it just. Never mind the fact that the game, I obviously got to watch the game because the game was on early in the day, right? And it was great to watch, even on TV. Do you know what I mean? And one of the things I kind of picked up on as I was watching it before the game was I don't think there was any music in the stadium in the build-up, let's say the 15, 20 minutes before the game. It was just the fans going at it on both sides. And it just if any of us ever get to go to a derby again, there probably won't be another one for another 8 years. But yeah, I had the fear of missing out. I was mega jealous for the day, which wasn't made any better by the videos that started to circulate through Twitter and the TikTok. And shout out, props to Cahill as well for getting the TikToks going, because as soon as we get that TikTok going, we know we get the banter going as well. So be sure to check out those on the socials as well. It's at the Irish Mags. And yeah, look, cracking game, cracking result. And that's probably where we can turn our focus in the first main section of part 2 of this week's pod. Great meetups, a great day, but let's just quickly kind of go through the game itself. Chris, I'll probably just start with you.
Yeah.
Comfortable is a fair word to use overall?
I mean...
in hindsight, maybe? Is that a hindsight thing?
Yeah, no, we outclassed them in every sense of the word, outclass. And again, I'm not getting into the whole Mackem Newcastle thing. Not yet until I have another bit of this. But it was incredibly comfortable right across the board. I'm not saying that the guys were just knocking it about, taking it easy. They certainly weren't. They were in a game there for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And there's a good few tackles flying in and a good bit of, gnarl in the game. I like that. But it was absolutely clearly evident that we were far superior team with far superior players. We could have played that game anywhere and it would have been 3 or 4-0. Like I said at the end of the last episode, we're going to smash these, right? Now, did I have a little bit in my head that I was thinking, this could be a bananas peel? But I really did believe that we had far superior players that really understand what it is to play for Newcastle. Joe Linton, Bruno, Isak was well up for it from second one. These guys were ready to make themselves in the folklore of Newcastle. Comfortable, very, very comfortable, Paul. I mean, I had no issue whatsoever with this whole game. And that's why I think the meet-up and so on with everybody, yeah, we were slightly nervous at the start, but once it started to go in, we were coasting it. We coasted the whole game, let's be honest. No disrespect.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say there was definitely that banana skin feeling was in the back of everyone's minds, which wasn't aided by the fact that we weren't in great form coming into it, and they knew that, right? But for me, and I think a lot of people seem to have felt this, once we actually got to the kickoff and you kind of looked at the teams, and I mean, not many of us are going to have seen a lot of Sunderland playing this season, right?
Yeah.
But once you really took a look at, okay, they've got a couple of decent enough players, like Jack Clark has had a good season. I was very curious about Joe Bellingham because I hadn't really seen much of him. And I was, you kind of see the size of him, and you can't not think if he's anything like his brother. And it's so tough for him to be consistently compared to his brother. But once I really realized that, you know what, he's not really that much of a threat. Suddenly I was like, God, they don't really have much at all, actually. You know, the guy up front, apparently he's not really much of a striker. So
they were toothless. They had nothing. They absolutely had nothing.
And I think Alan as well. I mean, there's a lot of, yes, we were expected to beat them. If we were playing a Hull City or a Cardiff or whatever, do you know what I mean? It wouldn't have been the same. The derby brings an extra element, but I think just, we go back to the quality. And I really want to pick your brain on like Joe Linton in that first half. Right? That the physical gap in class and the technical gap in class was just very evident. And I think at the end of the day, derby or not, we did exactly what we needed and expected.
Absolutely. Look, everyone was thinking this could be a banana peel. It could definitely trip us up. 5 minutes in, every single worry in my body went out the window. I was like, these aren't going to lay a glove on us. This is a very, very good Premier League side against a very, very average Championship side. Take the derby out of it. Every single day of the week we play them, we beat them. Joe Bellingham, everyone was ranting and raving about him and Jack Clark. I'll wait until you see him. I'm still waiting to see him because neither of them done a thing in the match. I'm sorry, they didn't put a glove on us. Like they didn't. They were relying on the crowd and just Newcastle being, as they have been in the last couple of weeks, not 100% on it. But the second week came out outstanding. Joe Linton in the midfield. What a man. Don't get me wrong, he came off. I don't know why he came back out for the second half. That just baffled me. He was 55 seconds into the second half and he got hooked because he was clearly injured. First half, he was the best player on the pitch by a country mile, running around, just ran himself into the ground. He did 90 minutes worth of running in 45 minutes, ran himself into oblivion, got a goal. I'm giving him the goal. Never mind the assist. He got the goal. That's his. Let him have it.
That's his.
He was just outstanding, but it just showed what we were missing in the last few weeks. Though he'd been on the left wing for a couple of games. Don't get me wrong. He is very, very, very capable of playing on the left wing. But when he does play on the left wing, we lose a bit of that bite and a bit of the nastiness in the midfield, which I think really, really, really needed against Sunderland because we were 2 or 3 like that guy Luke O'Neill or 9, whatever the hell his name is. He did put a serious tackle in on Miley, and I can just say I was like, in my head, I know Miley came on for Joe Linton, but I could just see if that had happened in the first 5 or 10 minutes on Miley, the game could have been very, very different. But I can guarantee you, Luke O'Neill wasn't going to be doing that to Joe Linton because it's like tackling a brick wall. You're just not going to do it.
Yeah, look, I'd like to think, Alan, you said it. Were you surprised that Joe Linton came back on? I'd like to think that he was standing, towering over Eddie Howe, going, "I'm fine. I'm going back on. I don't want to come off," because you said it yourself. This is an adopted Geordie at this stage. He's been there a while and he's enjoying his football. He wanted to be on that pitch in the derby, and that says an awful lot. Okay, 2 points I want to bounce off each of you. So, Chris, I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah.
Can we just shut down this myth that Newcastle have beaten Sunderland because Sunderland gave us an own goal, they gave us a mistake, and they gave us a penalty, and therefore handed us a win for free? Can we just shut that down, please, for the record?
Immediately. The only reason why those things happened is because of our attacking play before, because we were on the front foot, because we were coming at them, Black Cats. You make me laugh. Honestly, they had nothing about them. They were like a bunch of kittens running around. It was men against boys. It was baloney. Basically, the reason it could have been 5-0. There was a 20-minute period in the second half. I think myself and Alan and the guys at the meetup were kind of going, "Oh, look, hang on, we've got 2-0. Why are we stepping back?" Frankly, I think that Newcastle felt sorry for them a little bit. God bless them. We may let them have a bit of a shot on goal or something. The most they did was hit the crossbar from 35 yards that Dubravka actually pulled his hand away from because he knew it was going over. So whether it clipped the bar or not is inconsequential. We could have got, honestly, it could have been 5 or 6-0 to be honest with you, but they were like I said earlier, they were completely toothless. Myself and Alan looked at each other after 10 minutes and went, "We have this." They have nothing. They don't have anything for us at all. They'd won up front against Shar and Botman. Don't make me laugh. I mean, honestly, it was an easy cleanup all day. The reason why we got our goals is because we played better football. We're a better team. We're a better city. We have a better stadium. We have better fans. And like I said last week, I was really hoping for 4-0 so I could come onto the podcast and go, told you we smashed them. But yeah, let's just cut that. Let's just cut that out immediately, Paul. We got those opportunities because we played on the front foot. We knew what it meant, and we smashed them.
And I think there was elements of game management in there. I think there was a lot of times where we actually were dropping down a gear rather than up because
absolutely,
we want control the game, control the fitness, and all that. I just love when Chrisio goes a bit Roy Keane. I was waiting for him to say, "Do me a favor," but he didn't.
It's his job.
Alan, one last question then for you, and it probably moving away from the fact that it was Newcastle Sunderland, but I really enjoyed the fact that there was no VAR in this game. And for you guys watching in the bleaker together, I wanted to check, like, could you feel that difference without the VAR in the game?
Real football game.
Don't get me wrong. If there was VAR, Sunderland probably would have had maybe even 9 men. They probably would have had 10 men because we would have had a penalty in the first half. But it was very, very nice to go, whatever decision's made is made. It doesn't matter. Like, there's nobody going to be reviewing it. It just made the game flow a lot better. It felt like an old school game of football, if you know what I mean, where it was just 2 local teams. Don't get me wrong, it was a few nasty, feisty tackles. Not nasty, there was a few feisty tackles. If there was VAR, you're going like, will they be looking at this? Will they be looking at that? Will they be looking at? And you're going, it just ruins the flow of the game so much, and it's just so refreshing to actually get to watch a game full 90 minutes, barrel through, and you're going, that's how football should be. But we don't get that in the Prem, unfortunately.
We don't, and incidentally, we have actually drawn ourselves a Premier League team in the next round. We will have, if you haven't spotted it, guys, we will have an away trip to London again to play Fulham in the next round. I don't think we're going to do much of a preview on it, lads, in this episode. I think we'll save it because obviously it's going to be a big game coming up later in the month, and we'll be giving it much more airtime there. But I think the general consensus is could have been worse, but could have been better. It's probably how you'd look at it. So
yeah. Thanks to Emma Byrne, one of our super fans.
Yes.
We have a photo with her. She's fab. We love her. But people were making a suggestion on Twitter. She did pick up number 15, and then she dropped it for some reason. Maybe there was somebody in her ear. I don't know. It's amazing how Man Red got Eastleigh, and we got Fulham away. But I'm just wanting to add to the fun, guys. That's what
you must have said. You must have said something to her in that meetup. It wouldn't have. But that's more for the Irish Mags show after hours for another day.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Right. Let's move on to our next section, lads, which is going to talk about news and transfer rumors. And this is largely going to be transfer rumor based. A lot's happened since we last did a transfer discussion. And obviously it is transfer window madness time of the year. A lot of names starting to go around. Alan, quickly check in with you because this is our weekly tradition. And what we have written on our little sheet, our little notepad here says in capital letters, still no Calvin Phillips, LOL.
Yes.
So seemingly he's turned down Juventus, seemingly he wants to come to Newcastle, but you know yourself, this is all probably paper talk. If you're listening to it all, by the sounds of things, it's wrapped up, it's done, everything's right, but we're haggling over price, obligations, options. Come here. Man City seemingly want 7.5 million for a 6-month loan. When did loans become basically a purchase? Like that 7.5 million 2-3 years ago would buy you a decent player. I won't say a good player, but like that's just outrageous money for a 6-month loan, especially if they're going, well, you have to buy him afterwards. You go, no. So I do still think it will happen, but come here. We're not exactly rushing out to get players, considering we're getting a few players back now. Like by the end of the month, we should have Willock, we should have Wilson, things will look a little bit healthier, shall we say. So yeah, I still think you will come in though.
I mean, there's been so much talk, you'd nearly be surprised that it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But look, we're here on the day of recording, 9th of January, still no movement. Crisho, where there has been a bit more rumours spreading around, it seems to be in the centre half position. Couple of names going around there. We've picked up on Ousmane Diomande, who's playing over in, I believe it's Sporting. And then one of the latest ones we heard was Andreas Christensen, there's talks of a loan deal from Barcelona. But Crisho, you had famously recently told us that the Joachim Andersen deal was already done. So what is going on in this position, Crisho?
Well, look, those two names that you mentioned are just red herrings, kippers, as it were. Anderson will be in by the end of January. In fact, he might be in the next week. So hold me to that, everybody here and everybody listening. Joachim Andersen will be signed before the 30th of January. The other two players, that's just paper talk again. None of those are going to happen. Andre Santos will come in on loan also. So those names, I'm not poo-pooing them for you guys here live on the podcast, but I'm poo-pooing them. The other stuff that I was saying, and I know I mentioned this to you guys before, but I'll say it here on the podcast, is that I really do believe, why would we fight for the decision by the Premier League to block loans coming in and not do anything with it in January at all? Why would we fight it to not do anything with it? So I think Alan knows what I'm going to say.
Hold on. Just don't say Jordan Henderson, because we can't.
Yeah.
No, I have it written here. Jordan Henderson, question mark. No. But what I do have to play in the FA Cup 4th round is Mitrovic coming in, and Alan is shaking his head again. Mitrovic is a Newcastle United supporter. He needs a second chance at how he kind of messed it up the first time. He's a lot more of a mature man. He's made a bit of money in the Saudi League. Well, Alan, he is. By the age, by age, right?
To quote his father, what would Alexander be if he wasn't a professional footballer? A prisoner. He does not have the head to play Premier League football. He is a psychopath.
It's just for the FA Cup, Al. Just against Fulham. Get one over on Fulham. Do one for us. Ekitike keeps popping around and screaming around. Tottenham are looking at him. Or I think it was Tottenham. Not Tottenham. Crystal Palace were looking at him.
Yeah, Wolves as well.
And now Wolves as well. And then Rafinha. Barcelona need to offload Rafinha. They will take a loan fee again, like Alan was saying. This could be 15 million up front for a 6-month loan with an obligation to buy. Would I take him? I don't know. Do we need him? Do we need Aldi? I don't think we need Rafinha. For what? Where would he fit in? Where would he go? Especially with Miggy kind of getting his form back a little bit. I know a lot of people are screaming at the podcast going, Miggy, have to sell. But that's what I have. Mitro, Ekitike, Rafinha, with the players being sold as Manquillo, Hendricks, and Hayden.
Interesting.
By the end of January.
Yeah.
There's a lot to consume there. I think part of me is like, if we were still in the Champions League or the Carabao Cup was still around, maybe I'd be like thinking more towards this 3 or 4 players. But now that there isn't as many fixtures and there are more players due to return that are going to feel like new signings, in particular Harvey Barnes, and even Joe Willock to an extent, right? I'm just not as confident on the volume of signings. I have to say, though, it does entertain me to no end, whether there's any truth in it or not, that there's a lot of tweets going around about players out in Saudi suddenly deciding it's too warm and the crowds aren't big enough and they want to come home. Because, there's no way you could have Googled that. But look at if any of those players end up at Newcastle, it will give us a lot to discuss on this show at the very least. But I don't think we'd be the only club.
Jordan Henderson's gone to the Mackems. What does he go to the Mackems and help them? What does he go back to where he belongs?
Let's see if he there's a guy, just really quickly, Alan. There's a guy, Nikola Kalinic, I think it is, who went back home and is offered to play for his club for like
for a euro. Yeah.
Let's see if Jordan Henderson will do that. Unlikely, Alan.
Just on the Saudi loan deals, like I don't see any of these really happening, because if the lads leave Saudi Arabia, they have to pay all the tax back. So, like, any money they have made will be gone in an instant. Like, I was reading today that if Jordan Henderson does leave on loan, I think he owes the state of Saudi Arabia like 6.8 million quid, and he's only earned like 7.2. So, it doesn't really make much financial sense for them. Now, don't get me wrong, if Neymar or one of them lads decide that they want to pop up to St. James's, I'm sure they'll sort something out. But I can't see any of these loans actually happening, because they have to stay for 2 years for their tax exemption to come into effect.
Right, okay.
There you have it, folks. The Irish Mags Show, tax advice by Mr. Alan Williams. Krisha, really quickly, sticking with matters of the boardroom or of the upstairs and the admin side of things. Dan Ashworth.
Yeah,
we've had some news in that area.
I'm not going to mention the guy's name. No, I can't. I just can't mention him. He works for the Times. I'm not going to mention him because we're not friends. But Dan Ashworth has turned down Ineos and their sleeving approaches. There's a nice word for everybody on the podcast. Sleeving approaches, which is fantastic. Which could only bode well for the future. I don't know whether Dan Ashworth had signed the same contract as Eddie Howe, where it's like nearly a 10-year contract or an 8-year contract or something like that as director of football. But that's a real kind of stake in the ground. I'm staying here. I believe in the project. We're going to take it forward. And like I'd said in previous episodes, I like the way they're doing it. I like the way he did it at Brighton. I like the way he's trying to approach it here. I think we've got a world beater in Minta. When Alan said, once he realizes that he's in an actual football pitch and not like Forrest Gump running out of the stadium. But the fact that Dan Ashworth has said no is one of the most important things to happen in a transfer window.
Absolutely. Stuff. And as we said, like, hopefully that transpires to be complete true facts. It seems to be, and it is a big virtual 2 fingers to another club that would consider themselves.
We're the United. To us. Yeah, exactly. we're United.
We are united.
Yeah.
Just before we close the transfer section, Alan, there is some odd rumors that I've spotted that are leaning more towards exits from Newcastle.
Yeah.
On the playing side of things, we've heard talks of Bruno with PSG. We've heard some debate about Longstaff. Talks about like, let's sell Longstaff for FFP reasons. Can you do us a favor and do me a favor? Should I just continue ignoring them as I have?
I would, yeah. I can't really see us. Bruno's going nowhere. PSG can come in with 115 million, all they want. Did you see that man celebrating that tackle against Sunderland the weekend? Yeah. He's not going anywhere. No. He loves this club. There was 115 million quid, or whatever it is, buyout put into his contract. I have a funny feeling that is for one club and one club only, and I have a feeling that's for Real Madrid. Mm-hmm. He has said on numerous occasions that's where he would love to play. And come here, you can't stop the man from following his dreams. PSG was never his dream. He's already done it in France. He's doing it in England now. The next place he'll do it in will be Spain in a year's time when he goes to Real Madrid, unfortunately.
And that is a topic that you have given us a flavour on before in terms of your 2 cents on that with regard to Sandro Tonali.
Yes.
And we did mention we're going to revisit that, but we've decided to hold it for the gap we have in fixtures in a couple of weeks' time. Because
yes, we have.
I think that'll be a good time to look at what's going on in the window as well and see what the latest rumours are and spend a bit more time on it. Excellent stuff.
Sorry, no,
Go ahead, Alan. Sorry, keep going. You've got more secrets.
I can't see Longstaff going. Realistically, Longstaff is more valuable to Newcastle at the minute than what we would actually get for him. So you might get 20 million for him, but in our head, he is a 50 million pound signing because of the work he does.
Well, there you have it. So Longstaff is not leaving, and I think you're right, Alan. I think the fact that he's a Geordie and how much that has meant to this period of success that we've been having.
Yeah,
like we need more Longstaffs, and I just don't see why. I just don't feel like you said, that we get enough to warrant a sale whatsoever. I think we could park that there for now, and we can move over to my favorite time of the week, and that is, of course, Chris Show's bad take of the week. Take it away, Chris Show.
I will take it away, everybody. This is going to be a hard one. Just as I'm drinking Mackem tears, I'm going to drink Arsenal tears now, and make a shout out to our friends. I say friends at Arsenal TV. Essentially, friends in inverted commas. Nobody saw the inverted commas on the audio. But this is frankly unbelievable. Yeah, I know my other stuff has been unbelievable, but this one really is taking the biscuit here. Is that Isak is going to sign for Arsenal by the end of the January transfer window. And they've just somehow scanned all players across all leagues, and for some reason have gone for our Swedish striker. They've firmly believed, they put up a poll, yes or no. I can't believe they even put in an option of no. But they're actually they actually think that Arsenal can just plod along up the road, pick out Isak and bring it back down to London because they live in fantastic London. That's it's one of the most pit-wrenching takes that I'm going to do in these podcast series. But Isak going to Arsenal that is a bad take all round, gentlemen. And I offer it up to you guys to gobble it up and drink some Arsenal tears, because this is not going to happen. It can't, but it is something that is doing the rounds, gentlemen. It is genuine. It's a genuine thing.
They can't afford it.
I was going to touch on. I've heard that he's turned them down before, or that they were rumored before. If they wanted Isak, they would have already had him. There was talks that Arteta went for Jesus over Isak. I can't remember on the timeline if my times are even, if there's an overlap there, but I just, even to throw just to sneak the January part in for me is madness, right? I would never say never. Is Isak ever going to play for Arsenal? Maybe at some point in the future. I obviously don't want him to, but it's not crazy, right? But as if they're going to be able to rock in to pay what, for me, Alan, when you were going to say can't afford him, what are we talking for Isak?
We signed him for 65 million, and he's gotten he's now proven in the Premier League. Proven in the Premier League means, look what they spent on Rice. He's a goal scorer. So you're talking more than that. Like I genuinely, another Premier League team, I wouldn't accept anything less than 150 million from.
Yeah,
that's an outrageous sum of money. That's an outrageous sum of money. But if another Premier League club want them, they can break the bank for him. And come here, if someone comes in with 150 million through gritted teeth, I'll allow him to leave. Won't be happy about it, but come here, you have to let these things go sometimes.
Oh, there's a bad take.
There is an interesting take, and this means I'm finally creating a rift between you two, which was my mission all along.
Never. Brothers from another mother. No, never. But I mean, 150 million, I get it, Alan, is a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
We could do a lot with that, right? But I just can't see Isak playing for any other club. If he went to Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, Inter Milan, hooray, right? But just please God, again, I don't believe in God, but please God, let's not allow him to go to, my God, Arsenal or Liverpool or Christ.
Chris, I'm going to make you just breathe a sigh of relief. And it's not often I make big statements, but it's not happening. It's not happening. Okay, good. Well, no, that was bad.
It was bad.
Let's move on. This section, we're going to talk about pretty big game, lads. We are about to welcome the Premier League champions, the Champions League champions, the treble winners, Club World Cup, etc.
Yeah.
Manchester City to St James's Park. Now, I've always been an optimist when it comes to Newcastle, and this is one of the reasons why I've never been any good at FPL, because I always have carried Newcastle players in my FPL. It's because I have a blind optimism, unwavering faith. But I feel like, we've just come off the back of not a hard-fought win, but an important confidence-building, create a buzz, back to ourselves win. And if I'm Man City, I feel like it's a terrible time to have to come to St James's Park, because we've just remembered, like, okay, we haven't won in a while. That's what it's like, and that wasn't even at home. So I think I'll start with you, Alan. The biggest concern is the most obvious concern, which is whether both Haaland and De Bruyne may be back. Let's assume they are. Let's assume they are, right? What are you thinking in terms of, should we still be looking at it going, we can beat Man City here at home on Saturday?
Well, we've already done it this season.
Yes, we have.
Boom. Yes.
We've knocked them out of the cup. So don't get me wrong, Man City are a different animal when it comes to Premier League games, but we've done it once. Why can't we do it again? Do I think it'll happen? Not particularly. I'm going to go stick my neck out and say we're going to get a draw. Man City are the best team on planet Earth. Watched them in the FA Cup the other day. They won 5-0 against Huddersfield, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was the worst game of football I've ever witnessed in my whole life. I never really realised how boring the football Man City play is. They just they nullify teams to death, and that's what they do. And I'm just like, you can do it against us. It can be done. I don't think they will be able to nullify us to the extent they will want to at St James's Park with under the lights, Saturday 5:30, place will be on wheels. The lads will have had a couple of beverages before the game, shall we say. So hopefully the atmosphere lives up to what it should be. But they have De Bruyne and they have that robot back. Like, he's a freak of a footballer. Like, he can turn goals from anywhere. And with De Bruyne passing them the ball, like, I've seen the stat that De Bruyne in the last 2 seasons is the highest assist maker in all top 5 leagues. Like 3 games this year, lads. He's still number 1 on that list, like, in 2 seasons. Like, it's just mental. They're so good, but we ain't the bad side anymore. So we're getting something.
Yeah,
okay. I think I agree. And Chris, like, we don't have a terrible record against the City in very recent times. You know what I mean? We've, like, I think if you go back the last few years, yes, but in if we were to look back in the last couple of games, we've done fairly well. But the one thing I was going to ask is, even if Haaland is back, right? He hasn't been super Haaland throughout the season, and he's been dipping in and out. But correct me if I'm wrong. We've not had a bad record playing against Haaland, or at least Sharon Botman, for example, have managed to keep him in touch. On a couple of occasions.
Yeah, if it is Sharon Botman, which I believe it will be, at the centre half pairing, I think they can keep him quiet. I'd be more not worried about Haaland. I'd be worried about what's playing around him on the wings and through the middle. And even if De Bruyne is playing, and please, I hope he isn't. If he gets anywhere near 25, 20 yards out, he will take a shot. He will look to take a shot. We're going to have another magnificent performance again, maybe even to get the draw. But hopefully the crowd can G us up, make it into kind of like, I hate to say it, Champions League kind of evening, dark, freezing cold. Maybe it might be a bit rainy. Maybe the spoiled Man City guys mightn't like that too much. A couple of sliding tackles early in the first 10, 15 minutes. That's why I think Joe Linton came off at halftime. Well, pretty much essentially halftime against Sunderland. He needs him for Man City to boss it around. Rodri, De Bruyne, Haaland.
Even Foden's having a very good season.
It's very good.
Foden always scores against us. Scores against us.
Is Wilson back? Is Callum Wilson back? Is Callum Wilson back? He's not back, right? So it's Isak again, right? look at like we were doing. I know we were doing the transfers the last section, but look at, let's all be honest with our listeners here. We need a striker in January.
But look, the one thing I'll say is when Isak plays well, things tend to work out well. Like we say that a lot about Bruno being in the Newcastle kit, right? And how vulnerable we are without Bruno. But I just feel like when Isak is on form, we just have an extra dimension.
We're dangerous. Yeah, we're dangerous.
Much more dangerous. And look, the reality of it is he's a finisher. He takes half chances and he turns them into goals. But it's just about finding the right positions and getting him in his rhythm. I guess the one thing if I'm going to compare it to like the last big team we would have played would have been Liverpool. And I just feel like, going up against Salah, for example, right? I felt a lot less confident than I would do against whether it's Foden or, I mean, I know they have Doku, but then there's kind of, he's been in and out, Grealish, meh. So I don't know. I feel a bit more confident playing Man City than I would have against Liverpool. That's how I feel about it, and that's why I'm going to throw in 2-1 Newcastle to get the predictions.
All right. So Alan, you went for a draw, right? Paul, you're going 2-1. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go for an absolutely sensational 2-all, with Man City 2-0 up and then Newcastle clawing it back to 2-all once they take Dan Burn off.
No. My heart can't take that, Chris. Please stop.
It's gonna be one of the best games of the year, and we're only a couple of days into it. Would I have much preferred to play Man City at home 2 weeks after the 2-week period? Absolutely. So Eddie can get a hold of them, coach them a bit more. But even if we do lose this game, which we're not going to, it's either going to be a draw or a win for Newcastle. The real test, and it's going to be a great podcast for us, is how we do against a Villa after the 2-week period of training. We can match it against the 5-1 at the start of the season and see that's where we really see where we are as a squad. Absolutely. But it's going to be a sensational evening. 2-all. There you go.
Okay. We've got predictions of a win and 2 draws, but as Chris said, none of them are defeats. Only time will tell. And that will take us nicely into upcoming Irish Mags events. Alan, I'm going to come over to you for that. I believe there is another meetup. Whether or not we can top the last one, it's going to be asking a lot. But tell the listeners about meetup planned for this weekend and Manchester City.
So, of course, we will be in the Bleaker from, I will say 4:30, but if you want to go in earlier, I'm not going to stop you. My missus might stop me. I'll be there from 4:30, maybe 5 o'clock onwards. But don't think we're going to get the 70s that we got for Sunderland game the weekend. But yeah, we will have a decent turnout. We'll have a good few lads. Now, the other thing is we've a good few lads going to the game. We've managed to get ourselves a good few tickets for this game. So I think we're going to have about 30 people in for the Bleaker. If all goes well, it'll be the usual, if you know what I mean. But if you want to come along, come along. It's going to be a good old day as usual.
Fantastic.
Excellent. And one request from me. For anyone that is going to the game, get as many photos as you can, guys, because we want to show them on the YouTube show next week when we're looking back. So be sure to get your photos, get them in on WhatsApp, send them to any of us, and we'll be sure to get them up on the screen.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, I think that's probably a good time for us to bring episode 6, which has come to you in 2 parts this week. As we mentioned, we had part 1 with Warren Barton, and now part 2, where we've had, let's just call it, some interesting takes and a bit of crack around it, either side. So I think we can bring episode 6 of the Irish Mags show to a close for this week. You can find links for all the Irish Mags socials in the description below. As mentioned, make sure you check out our interview with the legend that is Warren Barton. Thank you again to everyone who has listened or watched today. The usual story, give us a follow, a like, and a retweet, wherever you see us across the socials. We will hopefully be back next week to be talking about a return to winning ways in the Premier League. So again, until then, away the lads, slán go fóill, and we'll see you all next week. Say goodbye, lads.
Slán lad.
Slán fellas, slán everybody. God bless.
Good luck.
Let's beat Man City.
That's it.
Let's beat Man City. Come on.